Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK. Back at you with another video here. Today on the 2-game NBA main slate on Monday. Before I get into the video, for you guys who are new to the channel, my name is DK. I make daily videos breaking down NBA, NFL, PGA, and esports. Daily fantasy sports slates. Before I get into the analysis, I do want to say thank you guys again for all support. Currently at 4.7 thousand subscribers on YouTube. The easiest way to support me, guys, since all the content is free, leave a like button on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the notification bell just so you know when I upload videos, you know when I go live. And spread the word. If you have friends that play DFS and you enjoy the content, you're making money, just spread the word. Would greatly appreciate that. Also, if you cannot watch the YouTube videos, I do upload on Apple Podcasts. The link is in the description below, which is the DK DFS show. With that out of the way, let's jump into the video. So before we get into players and the prices for this 2-game slate, let's take a look back at my lineup here from Sunday. So Sunday, the ownership in the early game really surprised me. A lot of guys super low owned. Dragic 15%, Hero 19%, Middleton 37%. Brolo was the one chalky guy at 53%, George Hill 30% owned. You had Bam and Adebayo at like 12% owned. I mentioned having interest in him. I didn't get to him in my final lineup because I wanted to get AD. But yeah, was a little bit surprised there of the lower ownership. With that being said, it probably means that AD and LeBron both are going to be pretty popular. And I think Westbrook will probably get some ownership as well at 8.5. But yeah, Dragic at 7.2 was perfectly fine there for 35 fantasy points. Hero started really slow, got bailed out a little bit in there in the overtime, hitting a couple threes. 22 fantasy points at 5.3. Not bad, but not great either. Middleton was the key for me here, 61 fantasy points. Obviously, the Giannis, him aggravating his ankle injury helped a lot, big time. Because Giannis was on pace. If you played Giannis, you got unlucky. Sure, you knew the risk, but he was on pace to crush. I think he had like 18 points and like 4 rebounds in like 10 minutes. I mentioned that was the lowest owned you upgrade Giannis. Unfortunately, again, the ankle injury kept him out the rest of the game. Brolo, another guy, had a really slow start. I don't know. I'm kicking myself a little bit for buying in the Brook Lopez chalk just because he's super scoring dependent. I mean, you saw that floor, right? Going into the fourth quarter, I think he had 8 fantasy points. So, yeah, the floor is low. He has to hit his threes, and he's almost 6K. Yeah, I'm kicking myself a little bit. I know he got to value, but I feel like I could have definitely could have faded him there. Then I want George Hill at 4.2K, 24 fantasy points, more than enough. Like I'll take it. Kuzma was the stand. I know he's gonna be low owned. More of just a gut feeling here. We'll see how it goes. The price dropped a little bit. I think his minutes go maybe around 30-ish, with the small ball Houston lineup. I just think he has to be their number 3 guy if the Lakers want to contend. So more just a gut feeling there with Kuzma. We'll see how it goes. I mentioned I was going back to AD, like LeBron too, but obviously couldn't get both in. And then Caruso was the value guy. There's a few Lakers value, right? You had Green, KCP, Caruso, Rondo. I went with Caruso, so we'll see how it goes. Currently in the money, but I'm curious to see what the ownership is in the late game. So let's take a look at the Vegas odds. Right now, they don't have the Denver and the Clippers game up. I'm assuming because of the Jokic, they haven't listed the Jokic injury. They haven't listed as questionable with a wrist injury. So we'll see. I'll kind of break down the slate as if Jokic plays. If he doesn't, I assume he's be good to go. But I will talk about if he's not good to go or if they rule him out. So yeah, the one game we have right now is Boston-Toronto. It's a 212 over/under. Celtics are 1-point favorites. These are two teams that are good defensive teams. When we saw that last game, what was it, 193 final score? Not great, 193 total points, but I think it goes up a little bit here. I don't think we're going to get under 200 points scored total. So we'll start center. And Jokic, like I mentioned, is dealing with a wrist injury. They haven't listed as questionable. I assume he's going to be good to go. If Denver wants to stay in the game, or even win the game like they did last time out, it has to be because Jokic and Jamal Murray. It literally has to be. Because right now, Mike Malone is not giving Michael Porter Jr. minutes off the bench. He is the only other scorer on the team that can, score consistently. Other than that, it's Jokic, it's Jamal Murray. Now, I still think there's a shot this game doesn't stay close like we saw in Game 1. Because Jokic and Jamal Murray, just that first quarter, they were absolutely insane. They just were not missing shots. Now, if Jokic is out then that's even more, obviously, the blowout risk more in play. 9-7, the ownership's going to jump on him. He was lower owned last slate. He had 61 fantasy points. They literally need that. They need Jokic and Jamal Murray both to have big games if they want to stay in this series. So he is the guy that has the higher floor compared to Jamal Murray. If you're going for more of the safety, it's Jokic. I think Murray probably has a little bit more upside like we've seen in those games against Utah. He's just, at times can be scoring dependent for a point guard. So Jokic is probably your safer play. No issue at all with him at 9-7. Obviously got to keep an eye on the wrist injury. Yeah, Ibaka at 5-9, just a minutes thing with me. We saw, he has to be ultra productive like he was that game. He shot the ball 7 of 9 and went for 30 fantasy points. And that was, again, him shooting almost 100% from the field. And still only 30 fantasy. He literally has to be amazing in his limited time. So it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense unless you're trying to get super, super contrarian and, hoping for Gasol foul trouble or something like that. You need that. Otherwise, Serge Ibaka is only going to play 20-ish minutes, 20 to 24 minutes, I'd say. And at 5'9", it doesn't make sense for me to get to him. Tice at 5'4". There's a good amount of plays like him, OG Anunoby, Marcus Morris, Jeremy Grant. They're pretty similar plays in the slate. Tice will play 25 to 30 minutes. He'll probably get somewhere between 20 to 30 fantasy points. I think he's a fine option. Don't think he's an amazing option. I think he's okay. Avicii Zubox. So, man, the Clippers and Denver rotation is just such a headache. Zubac played really well that last game. Really well. But did not come back into the fourth quarter. He played only 20 minutes. Went for 25 fantasy points. So, the risk is just the minutes with him. He can play literally 18 to 30. If he gets that higher end, if he gets closer to 30, he can definitely have a really good game for his price. But those minutes are not guaranteed. Right? Doc Rivers closed with JaMychal Green. So it's a risky play because the minutes are up in the air right now with Zubac. Now Millsap, I mentioned, I need to see him play the minutes consistently. We saw 32 last time out. Again, he was on pace for over 30 in the first game. So I know what's going to happen, but right now I do like Paul Millsap. I know, when I play him, that Mike Malone's just going to Mike Malone me and play Millsap 15 minutes. Because you saw that in the Utah series. He played literally 15 minutes a game. Again, that was on pace for 30. The first game he played 32. The second game, I like Millsap if he gets those minutes. I still think there's no guarantee because it's Mike Malone, but I'm probably going to buy into Paul Millsap for the price if we get over 30 minutes. Again, that's a big if, because it's Mike Malone as his coach, and there's no guarantee. Harrell, I'm just not going to get to. Unless you think the game blows out, there's no way I'm playing Montrezl Harrell 4-5. The only way you get to him is if you think this game blows out, because then he can crush in garbage time. But you're still not really getting him at a discount, and you saw, they didn't even close with Harrell. They closed with JaMychal Green. So, there's just absolutely no way I'm playing 4-5 for Montrezl Harrell unless you think the game blows out. Gasol's at 4-4. We'll get 25-ish minutes. He had kind of his floor game, 13 fantasy points, fouled out. I think he's a decent value option because he'll play 25 minutes. Again, his range of outcomes is somewhere probably around 15 to 25. I think that's perfectly fine on the slate. Robert Williams is a slightly riskier target at 3-8. Only played 15 minutes. He's obviously the more productive guy, but won't play as many minutes as Gasol. So Gasol probably your safer option. You have to pay a little bit more for him, whereas Robert Williams the riskier option, but the better point per minute guy. So both those guys are certainly in play for value on a slate that has very, very little value. JaMychal Green, I played him last slate. I kind of got bailed out because he got extended. They closed the game with JaMychal Green. He played 26 minutes, had a double-double, 25 fantasy points. I don't know what Doc Rivers is going to do. Is he going to give those minutes to Zubac in the fourth quarter? Is Montrez going to extend in the fourth quarter? Or is it going to be JaMychal Green? Well, I have absolutely no idea. It's literally Doc Rivers. You do not know. So JaMychal Green normally plays about 15-ish minutes, but got extended that last game, played 26. What are we going to get this game? Well, what I'm worried about is with there being very, very little value, I think JaMychal Green's going to be chalk value. But I think he's an okay option. I don't think he kills me if he plays 15 minutes. And if he gets extended again like the last game, he has upside to go for 20+. So Green is definitely someone I'm considering. What I'm worried about is I don't know what his minutes will be. Now, Plumlee's at 3-3. If Jokic is out, then obviously Plumlee is your best play of the day, by far, 3-3. I guess I'll come back at the end of the video and talk about if Jokic is out. I'll go back to Denver. So, yeah, if Jokic is out, Plumlee is your best value play of the day, by far. If Jokic plays, we're going to get 10-ish minutes from Plumlee unless Jokic gets in foul trouble. He's a good point per minute guy, so what you could hope for is the Jokic foul trouble, because if that's the case, Plumlee will come in, and then, again, he's a good point per minute guy. So, probably really wouldn't consider him if Jokic plays, unless you're getting super, super risky and hoping for the foul trouble. Cantor, I believe, did not play that last game. Yep, so don't play Cantor. Toronto's running a 7-man rotation, so can't play any of the value there. Let's move on to power forward. Tatum's at 9-3. I played him the back-to-back slates. He shot the ball better and still only put up 40 fancy points. So, worries me a bit. The ownership's going to be low on him. It just is, because you have the 2 Toronto guards that are going to be chalk. I'll be playing both once again. Full disclosure, I'm playing Lowry. I'm playing Fred VanVleet. The price tag's just too good on those guys. Tatum's going to go low owned. I still have interest. I still think he can break the slate and go for 60. We haven't seen it yet from him. Well, I guess the first, or one of those games, was that game 2 going for 55. Like, he has that upside in him. He's going to be low owned for the fact of there's very little value, and 9-3, you're not really getting him at a discount. Siakam's at 8-1. He played 46 minutes that last game. And they're running a 7-man rotation. Siakam, Lowry, and Fred VanVleet are basically playing the entire game. I still slightly prefer VanVleet and Lowry to Siakam, but that doesn't make Siakam out of play. Can you play all 3? I think it's doable, but what you would need is the blowout in the second game. And then if I was going to play all 3, I would run it back with one of those Boston guys and just go the full game stack. So, I am going to give the edge there to Lowry and Fred VanVleet. I don't hate Siakam. I just like those plays slightly better. Now, OG, it's a little bit concerning here. He went from 45 to 35 minutes. So that's a big deal, missing out on 10 minutes. The reason I liked him that last slate was because I assumed he was going to get close to those 40, 45 minutes. Played 35. 35, obviously, he's not as good of a play at 5'7". So how many minutes do we get out of him? I would say mid to high 30s. I think he's a fine play. Again, he's not really out there for his offense. He had more of a ceiling game 2 games ago. We went for 10, 12, or 12, 10, and then 2 blocks and 3 steals. So there's a group in the mid-range that I would consider. Again, OG Anunoby for forwards. OG Anunoby, Tice, Marcus Morris, Jeremy Grant are all similar plays to me. I don't really have a strong take on who I prefer of those guys. Mentioned Tice, yeah. Jeremy Grant, same thing, right? He played 40 minutes, shot ball terribly, still about 28 fantasy points. Now, did have 4 blocks and 2 steals. Wouldn't expect that again. So the floor is somewhat low on Grant, but the minutes will be there. Again, he's a fine option. I'm not overly excited about playing Jeremy Grant. Marcus Morris was kind of chalky last slate, and he busted. I don't mind going back to the wall. Dropped the price in $300, and that was definitely his floor game. He's been pretty consistent in the playoffs. Like, he's been a guy getting 25 to 30 fantasy points besides that one game where he got ejected. So I don't mind going back to Morris at 5-1. I think he's a decent option. Now, MPJ, he was great in 16 minutes, but only played 16 minutes. How many minutes does he get in this game? Well, I have no idea. Mike Malone seems to not want to give him minutes, so I mean, he's a super, super risky play. There's still a chance that MPJ could play close to 30 minutes. If that's the case, he could crush. But right now, it's just so hard to trust Mike Malone with his rotations. And mention Millsap. I think I'm buying into him, which means he'll go back down to playing 15 minutes, and then I'll be super, super tilted about Mike Malone. But he was on pace for 30 plus the first game, played 32 the second game. If we get 30 minutes again out of Paul Millsap at 4-7, I think he makes for a good option as a cheaper play. Talked about JaMychal Green. I'm not going to play Grant Williams or Semi Ojeleye. Just don't do it. You don't have to do it on the slate. Would not go to those guys. Small forward Kawhi's at 10-3. He's just a contrarian option. Now, he shot the ball terribly, 4 of 17. Still put up 45 fantasy points. But with there being so little value on the slate, it's hard for me to play 10-3. Like, Paul George is just going to be the much more popular play for his price. So if you can get to Kawhi, that's fine. But what do you have to sacrifice to get him in there? You're probably going to have to sacrifice a lot. So I don't think I'm going to get to Kawhi. Now, Paul George, he's going to be the popular play here for the Clippers. And I agree. Like, I would rather have Paul George than Kawhi Leonard. Now, Kawhi has more upside, but again, he's $2K more expensive. And with the Toronto guards looking so good in this slate, it just makes it hard for me to get to Kawhi over Paul George. So I do prefer Paul George at 8-3 to Kawhi Leonard. Jaylen Brown got lucky with the fade there last time out. He shot the ball 4 of 18. He was 60% owned. I mentioned I was going to Tatum and Kemba, who weren't much better, but definitely better than Brown at 24 fancy points. He has a low floor. I prefer Kemba Walker to Jaylen Brown. I will continue to prefer Kemba Walker to Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's came in at like 2 to 3x ownership of Kemba the last couple slates, and I'm more than fine going to Kemba over Brown, who just has a higher floor. Mentioned OG, Jeremy Grant, Marcus Morris, talked about all these guys. Powell is at 4K. Did play 19 minutes the last game, which is better to see, but the floor is still low. He has to hit his shots. There is still a possibility he could play 20 to 25 minutes. If he does, he can go for 25 plus fantasy points. Like, he's a good shooter, but he has to score the ball. So Powell intrigues me. He's still picked up some decent ownership the last 3 or 4 slates. Hasn't gotten people there. He's been really bad, right? 5, 11, and 6 fantasy points. So he's a risky play. But he's playable for his price. He's at least in consideration. He's a risky target for sure. Tory Craig's at 3-6, only played 17 minutes the last time out. I cannot consider him if he's going to play 15-ish minutes. There's just no way I'm playing Tory Craig. Shamet only played 10 minutes, not in consideration for me. Again, don't play Grant Williams. I mean, he has, what do you play? 13. Yeah, it's not enough for me to consider him, even at 3-3. That's it. So let's move on to shooting guard. Jamal Murray's at 8-9. He is the riskier option compared to Jokic, but if you think this game stays close, it's Jokic, it's Murray. Again, you know where the offense is coming from. So I don't hate the idea of getting to Jokic or Murray. They're slightly riskier options. I think there's still a chance this game could blow out, but if Denver is going to stay in it, it's Jokic, it's Murray. It's Jokic and Murray. Now, Jokic is the safer option because he has the higher floor. Murray is a slightly riskier option. So both are in play. I think both are a bit riskier, though, still on this slate. Mentioned Paul George. Yeah, Fred VanVleet, I'll be going back to the well for I've played him last, 6 slates or so. The minutes have been there on him, 43, 41, 45. He has not shot the ball well yet this series. 3 of 16, 8 of 22, 9 of 22, and 6 of 19, and has still put up 40 fantasy points a game. I just think he's a safe option. I will be playing him once again. If we get a decent or even a good shooting day from Fred VanVleet, he will break the slate and go for 60. So I do like Fred VanVleet once again. Him and Lowry are once again my favorite plays on this slate. Yeah, I mentioned Brown. Smart's just not a guy I'm getting to at 6'5". There's just no way. It makes no sense to get to Marcus Smart. He literally needs a game where he has 4 blocks and 4 steals for him to have upside. I'm not paying 6'5" for Marcus Smart. Lou Williams. So this is a tricky one. What are the minutes going to be for Lou Williams? They're all over the place. I played him against Dallas. He played 17 minutes. Thank you, Doc Rivers. Came out, played 29 minutes the last game. Well, how many are we going to get from him? I have no idea. Again, it's Doc Rivers, it's Mike Malone, 2 of the hardest coaches to figure out for those rotations. They're all over the place. So it's a risky play, but the upside is there on Lou Williams. He can break the slate even at 5'8". If he has a good shooting day, right? We saw it one game there in Dallas. We went for 50 fantasy points, shot ball 13 of 20. He has that type of upside. So I like Lou as a GPP play because I know the upside is there on him. It's just a question of, does he get the minutes? If I knew Lou Williams was going to play 30 minutes, I think I would play him. But there's no guarantee. They have Pat Beverly. They have Reggie Jackson. They have Shamet they'll use a bit. They have a lot of guys that can eat up these minutes. Gary Harris at 4-1. He'll play 30-ish minutes. He has hit his threes. You saw the stat line last game. 13 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists. So he's a risky option. But at least you know, I would rather get to Gary Harris over Tory Craig, so the minutes are at least higher on Gary Harris. So it's a risky target, but I think he's in play on a slate that has very, very little value. Mentioned Powell, too. Again, he has to hit his threes. I'm not going to play Tory Craig. And that's it for shooting guards. Let's finish up with point guard. Jamal Murray, talked about him. Lowry, Fred VanVleet, I will be playing both. Once again, they're two of my favorite plays. Once again. Lowry shot the ball 5 of 16 and went for 55 fantasy points. They're playing the entire game. They're do-it-all guys. Again, I will once again be playing Lowry and Fred VanVleet. And that was a low-scoring game, 193. So, I like them both again here. Kemba at 8K will be low-owned. He only shot the ball 9 times. Obviously a little bit tilting. He said himself he has to shoot the ball more. I agree. And I prefer him to Jaylen Brown. No, Kemba will be low-owned. The chalk is going to be the Toronto guards once again. And I would say Paul George. And maybe Jokic will get some ownership too. Like those 4 as like the spend-ups, I think will be the highest owned guys on the slate. Kemba's going to go overlooked. I still have interest in him. And I still think you can go the game stack route here. Even though they're 2 good defensive teams, like there's still a chance that the Clippers run Denver off the court. They literally need Murray and Jokic to have big games like we saw in Game 2. So Kemba's playable. I do prefer, right now, the Toronto guards to him. I'm not going to play Marcus Smart. Mentioned Lou Williams. Monte Morris is 3.9. He's playable, but I'm probably not going to do it. 15-ish, 15 to 20 minutes. Again, playable, but not going to feel good about it. Pat Beverly, I mentioned that he was going to be the chalk that last slate, and in 15 minutes he had 6 fantasy points. He did have 5 fouls, so probably would have played a few extra minutes. But how many minutes are we going to get out of Pat Beverly? I don't know. I think 15 to 20. It makes him an okay option, but if he's going to be chalk once again, I don't think he will after that bad game. But just, yeah, he's fine. Reggie's not a guy I'm going to play. Only played 9 minutes the last time out. Would just rather take a shot on Pat Beverly if you're going to make me pick one of those cheap Clippers guards. Wanamaker only played 13 minutes. Not enough for me to consider him at 3-4. And that's it. So this is a really tricky slate. Let's finish up with Denver and if Jokic is out. Again, I think he's going to play. But if Jokic is out, then there's a better chance this game blows out. But I would play Mason Plumlee. I would play Paul Millsap. And then probably play Jamal Murray, just because he's going to have to do everything for Denver offensively. And then it would make a guy like MPJ a lot more viable, assuming he would get more minutes. Would Bull get in the rotation? Maybe. But that would be a super, super risky play. So I think if Jokic is out, I would probably start my lineup with Plumlee, Millsap, Jamal Murray. That's the way I would go about it. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. So if you have been enjoying the content this far, I'd really appreciate it if you leave a like button on the video, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you know when I go live, you know when I upload videos. I will be live streaming 30 minutes before lock, going over everything, answering any questions you guys have at the end. So make sure you check out the live stream, guys. Thanks again. I hope you guys all have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow in the live stream.